Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Dennis Andrusick, the Deputy Associate Administrator for the Space Technology Mission Directorate, one of 4 of the NASA mission directorates that are executing the primary roles of space exploration. And actually, as of last week, I'm also the Acting Deputy Chief Technologist for the agency.
Yay.
I'm truly blessed to get to see across the board the kind of work that goes into building a system for the agency. Be it engines, electronics, avionics, entry, descent, and landing systems, power systems. The work is really mind-boggling in a good way. It is really fantastic. The ideas that come together to bring these systems together, to put rovers on Mars, people on Mars, to explore the solar system, to explore the Earth, really amazing. Those ideas don't come from one body alone. They don't just come from the civil servants. They come from outside of the organization. They come from industry. They come from academia, which is one of the reasons we're all here. And we would certainly like to see an expansion of the capabilities that come from academia. In that light, the research through contracts, through grants, really help us achieve the goals of the agency. And as I mentioned a couple seconds ago, we certainly look to expand that capability. Today, we're going to be talking about minority-serving institutions through the contracts that we have with academia, and also through grants. In the contract domain, you typically specify an end deliverable or specify a capability that you'd like to achieve in dollar figure, and you get a deliverable back. Grants provide us with significantly more flexibility. In the first panel that we have up here, we have my good friend Glenn Delgado, the Associate Administrator for the Small Business Programs. I've known Glenn for many years. As a matter of fact, in my previous life at the Goddard Space Flight Center, Glenn helped me craft hundreds of millions of dollars worth of contracts. And we split them up in the area of 8A contracts, in small business and full and open contracts to make sure we had a balance. And in achieving that balance, we really did make huge strides in achieving the goals for the agency. I know Glenn is a huge supporter of making sure we look across the country to get the best and the brightest minds, including academia and minority-serving institutions. So our first panel today will be moderated by Glenn Delgado. He will then introduce Barbara Orlando, who will be doing, she is from the procurement office, and Barbara is a grants specialist. She's really spectacular. Within my organization, the Space Technology Mission Directorate, we have an organization called the Space Technology Research Grants. She's the arm that helps make it happen. So if you have questions, please bring them up during these panel sessions. Glenn will be happy to answer Glenn and his panelists, sorry, Glenn,
No problem.
will be able to take care of any questions you have on contracts, and Barb and her panelists will take care of any questions you have on grants. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dennis. We appreciate it. We're asked here today to try to, my expression is to try to show you the money is the best way to do it, okay? Because this is the side we talk about now, how you guys can actually get involved in the contracting and the grant process here at NASA. And also, this does apply pretty much across all the federal agencies, too. Here at NASA, we really try to teach HBCUs and MSIs how to get involved into the contracting realm. Yes, grants are very nice, but I grew up in the contracts world. Contracts are much better, in my humble opinion, okay? Because you can, well, say I do. That's why you'll hear the grant side shortly, but now I got the floor, so no. But contracts you can actually do a lot with, and you can develop relationships that you can't necessarily do on the grant side of the fence. You can start involving large primes, and you can start not only working with them, but you can start working with, once you learn working with a large prime, you can develop to another one. So like up here we have Orbital ATK. I know companies that have worked with her, and HBCUs now work with Boeing, they work with Lockheed. So once they learn how to do these steps, you can go across multiple platforms, multiple companies, okay? And this is, to me, where the future is, because sometimes the grant money, is gonna get a little harder to get. Every federal agency spends tons of billions of dollars every year. That money does not dry up. So when you learn to play into the contracts realm of the fence, you have a more sustaining source of revenue than you might be in the grant world if and when some of the grant money might start drying up, which in anything can happen these days. So I won't put the hicks on them, but you know, it can happen. So, but contracts will always be contracts. So with that, I'm on a very tight schedule since we're running a little late. I will introduce my panelists. I have two HBCUs basically up here with me, and then I was always told to introduce her as the goddess, the queen, Miss Jennifer Schofield from Orville ATK. But to my immediate left here, I have Dr. Hussein Chaudhry, and I butcher names religiously, so try to help me out here a little bit. He's from the University of Texas, El Paso. He's the professor and chair of the Department of Mechanical Engineering. He's also the director of the NASA Muro Center for Space Exploration and Technology Research. He's been with us for a while, as far as he's helped us when we do our Technology Infusion Road Tour, which you'll get a little information about later, where NASA put together a special initiative where we're trying to go to a lot of the HBCUs, as well as with our people like Dennis and his department, so that they can see the technology that's actually being developed in the labs of the HBCUs, so we can try and integrate those into our missions, the future missions that we're looking at for asteroid redirect and our missions to Mars and other things of that nature. We've done two so far, and the next one's coming up shortly to my next panelist's place, which is FAMU, Florida A&M University. And what we really do is, I was surprised at the technology that's in some of these labs, and some of our requirements people from Space Tech and other, we had like so far 8 of the centers participate with us. The technology that they're working on, we had no idea that was hidden behind those walls. So we're trying to bring those gems out and see how we can integrate them into our mission, as well as expose them to our large primes that are working on those missions also with us, that they can incorporate as subcontractors, basically, is what we're looking at. So again, to my left over here is, now this one I'm going to try really good, Okoli, if I got it, Professor Okoli. Doctor, I did well, I'm told. Okay. He's the professor and chair of the Industrial and Manufacturing Engineering Department of U.S. Energy. He's also, I guess, the Associate Director of High Performance Materials Institute at both Florida A&M and Florida State University. As he talked about a second ago, he's one of the only ones with a joint college for both sides of the fence there. He's going to talk about also the work with the Mentor Protege program. NASA has an excellent Mentor Protege program where we try to use our large primes, such as Orbital ATK. We've also done it with Boeing, Lockheed, quite a few others, SAIC going down the line, where they actually mentor HBCUs to teach them processes and how to, one, set up a contracting shop, how to also get their interns involved in actually hands-on experience, so that they have that touch experience that you learn a whole lot more by touching and doing than you do in a book. And that really sparks them to stay into the STEM field, because they can play with the robots, they can see, they can look at the rockets and actually go, wow, this is going to take us to the Mars. And it really does spark their interest. So he's going to talk about, they've had a very, very successful Mentor Protege program, and I'll let those two talk about that. And then at the end, as I said before, the queen, Miss Jennifer Schofield, or was it the Highness, Your Highness? I believe one or the other. Miss Jennifer Schofield. I've worked with Jennifer for the last 10 plus years. Yeah, I'm getting to wrap it up tonight, so we'll get to her one. She's one of the best advocates that you can have in industry. Everything that she does really well, and she helps not only her company, but helps get these small businesses and HBCUs in front of a lot of other companies also. So with that being said, Dr. Chaudhry, the floor is yours, and I'm done wrapping up.
It is an extraordinary privilege to be able to talk in front of such a big panel, a big group of audience. And again, I'm Hassan Chaudhry from University of Texas at El Paso. And what Glenn asked me to do to really show what we have done in past decade in UT El Paso in terms of building a aerospace program. So, and what I'm going to do, highlight two options of this. One of the capacity building using NASA funding, but the second part is actually really integrated our operations with a NASA prime contractors, Lockheed Martin, and use their help to sustain not only the program, create an unprecedented opportunity for minority students. So before I can talk about our own program, I need to start talking a little bit about University of Texas El Paso. Many of you know University of Texas at El Paso. We started our journey in September 1914, almost more than 100 years back. A group of people in El Paso get together collected $50,000 and wanted to start an university. The goal was pretty clear. The goal was to change their economic condition and create prosperity. We started as an engineering school, Texas College of Mines and Metallurgy, and with a very few students in the desert, a desert town in West Texas, started the University of Texas, El Paso. We had a very, very colorful journey, but in 1966, we actually came to the national scene once again by actually winning an NCAA championship. Obviously, the objective was not to create a Disney movie 40 years later, but rather to really make a big, and if you're familiar with that event, we feel that our starting lineup was all African American. Although UTEP, although the community is predominantly Hispanic, almost 82% of our populations are Hispanic, our school always didn't look like that. Okay, so we had to make a really, really huge effort to change that. And starting 70s and 80s, we can see that we start to reflect like our community, the demographics we serve, right? So within 100 years, we became a very, very major urban research university with more than 24,000 students and operating a research budget of over $90 million. But we also realized that just providing education and raising aspiration is our business, but we cannot do that by only be a teaching university. We must be a Research One university. Why? Because Research One university brings the innovation, breadth, and capacity that comes with the educational excellence. But simultaneously, we do not want to be any other Research One university. Our core mission is access and excellence. We believe that the 21st century America deserves an access to higher education. When we mean by access, this access is not only about opening our door for every student who aspires to pursue higher education to create that opportunity. Our access missions actually very tied with also affordability. We believe that conversation I have not heard all day is that to maintain a diverse workforce, we have to create our education system affordable. If we price our students out with a continuously raising tuition, then we'll never achieve the goal because of the socioeconomic condition, the minority students are going to disproportionately get affected if you continue to raise the tuition. We stay very, very core to our mission. And so we believe and we challenge the US academia that both access and excellence can be achieved simultaneously. So back when 2001, I came to UTEP directly out of my graduate school as an assistant professor and wanted to build an aerospace program. My professor told me that I'm stupid. That's what he told me, that it is not possible, right? But he asked me that why I want to do that. I grew up 8,000 miles from here in a country that only had 4 aircraft. But I grew up idolizing US space heroes. And all my life I had to struggle to create opportunity. When I came to UTEP, I saw the same direction. So there is not one day I do not tell my student and whisper in their ear that no matter which zip codes you born, it doesn't limit you to achieve your aspiration. No matter what school you went to, it does not limit your aspiration. You have to aspire and you achieve. I point them every day to Danny Olivas, who grew in El Paso zip code and left the Earth's gravity. That's what is UTEP all about. That is all our program. I also don't forget to tell my 12-year-old daughter that do not let anybody tell you that you has any less capability than any other boy in your class. By the way, she's watching this event. Hi, Anisha.
Gotta get the important plugs in.
So what we wanted to build, when we get our NASA funding, we just do not want it to, so our primary funding came from MURI program, which is the Minority University Research and Education Program. Specifically, used to be called University Research Center, and then eventually it became the MIRO program. But when we took the NASA grant, we wanted to build an integrated capacity. We just do not want to treat this as one grant. We want to make structural changes with this. So this grant is centered on mechanical engineering, but it affected many, many students. But what it really did, it built a capacity within that allowed us to compete in the major league. So we built, most of this money we got from the NASA program we spend to support a student, because if we do not support our student, they're going to go and flip burger. So what our goal is to keep the student on campus. Simultaneously, UTEP and University of Texas system came through big time to create capacity to build around this grant. So mechanical engineering department within this period of NASA funding saw a tremendous growth of enrollment from 375 undergraduate to this semester 1,200 undergraduate students. But more often, that student has a really, really high aspiration now. NASA internship was a very scarce thing in our program, but many of my students now get 1 or 2 or 3 internships offer. So what exactly we needed to do with the grant money is not to just leave 5 years with that money, rather actually use the money, use the institutional commitment, and engage the aerospace and defense contractor to build capacity. And my previous panel pointed out very clearly that these minority, especially the urban minority university, are actually graduating majority of the minority students, right? So we had this humongous task to make sure that the US R&D workforce remain very diverse. So I know our challenges. I know also simultaneously the opportunities we have. So our centers primarily focus in aerospace, defense system, energy engineering, and cross-cutting technology. You see that it's a very diverse portfolio. But 3 things we did. First, we make sure that we build a lot of learning capacity. Universities do not like to bring learning facility. They build research laboratories. But we build a lot of learning facility, taking help from a lot of defense contractors. We build a humongous research capacity. But we always stay focused on our core mission, that we exist for students. I always tell that the research is for our students. Our students are not for research. That means I'm not going to populate my graduate program with foreign talents. They'll be always welcome. But our core mission is to make sure that we really, really train our homegrown talents. Otherwise, this globalization will not have the age of innovation. So we really stay very, very core to our focus and continue to move towards that direction. Partnerships, everything. So you cannot build program without partnerships. So we really stay very, very authentic. When I first submit the NASA proposal, only NASA center believed in us is Watson Test Facility because they're very close to us. But now we have this humongous partnership with Johnson Space Center, Marshall, Glenn Research Center. Not only that, these NASA folks, NASA branchships, really had a serious interest in our program. They took their own time to mentor our students. They really made sure that our students get trained the way NASA works. This is a humongous partnerships, and partnership. That's all really needs to build the capacity. I also get a lot of help from Blue Origin, ATK, Orbital ATK, but more importantly, we got a humongous, tremendous help from the Lockheed Martin Corporation. So as you can see that we developed a huge amount of partnerships, significant partnerships with NASA, and the people in NASA are always willing to help. It's just you have to connect to them. I found so many engineers always willing to mentor our students. You just be able to approach them and work with them. Just to make sure, so some of the accomplishment, and I'm not going to bother you all those things, but you can see that the pie chart shows that we did not limit ourselves with NASA funding. We knocked every door in the country and every agency to make sure that we build a very sustainable capacity. Our last go around, we supported 267 students. Before we started the project, we had nobody in the Marshall Space Flight Center. Right now, I have 10 students work for Marshall Space Flight Center. So that's the whole trick. But we also realized simultaneously that we cannot solve this problem in higher education. It has to be from the K-12. So we have another NASA program going on. It's same from the Muro program. It's called NASA Aerospace Academy, used to call SEMA program. And we almost touched 5,000 students and trained more than 200 teachers. Because I think to solve the diversity issue in US academia has to be solved in K-12 level. And we stay very authentic on that. But simultaneously, we made sure that we have a strategic partnership with the NASA agencies. So capacity building, collaboration, cooperation, and creating a preeminence. That's the formula. That's the formula most minority universities need to pursue to achieve the goal. We also stay I'm not going to go through very authentic to NASA technology roadmap, so make sure that we do relevant research. We do relevant research such a way that our student has a seamless integration to NASA program. We work on the LOX methane propulsion technology risk reduction. It's one of the top goal for mission to Mars because that's something, but we got a lot of help from the National Research Center to do. We're also very active in the CubeSat program. So I summarize this by showing that the things we need in a minority university to succeed, so to create opportunity for a student, obviously start with the faculty and staff development. We have to be able to generate enough fund to do research equipment. The fund we usually get from both NSF and other programs simply is not big enough to really make a significant change in the research infrastructure. Also, really a lot of partnerships needs to be developed between university, NASA, and other centers.
Double.
Okay. So I will start with this campaign, a little bit showing this campaign with the Lockheed Martin we did. It's called Operation Bold Stroke. So what we did with Lockheed Martin is a full engagement, not just one single thing, okay? And so these things we did. Leadership's engagement with us, collaboration, research and development, recruiting, and campus activity. It's a full engagement, and I will show you a very quick chart. You can see that inside their organization, each entity did a lot of engagement with us. And what I will show you quickly that the result of it. As you can see that, and somebody asked me during the lunch that what is the need for Lockheed Martin, right? Why did they spend that much resources? You can see that in F-35 program, which is based on the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I have 100 students working for that program. So there was 112 students hired from the program for F-35 program. And Lockheed Martin lost only one of this employee. So this is a win-win situation, and 112 out of 112 students, 98 of them are actually minority students. So it is a truly, truly win-win situation. So if we work together, the solution is we cannot solve this problem alone. It has to be together. So with that, I will give back to Glenn.
Thank you very much. That's very impressive. Then I would like to turn it over to Dr. Okoli. He'll talk a little bit about the Benner Protege program and the success he's had with Orbital ATK.
He said everything. My slides.
Well, here's your
Oh,
clicker. I think if you click it, you should be good.
okay.
Yep, there you go.
I come from a program that is shared between two institutions, a majority institution, Florida State University, and a minority institution, Florida A&M University. And the reason was, I believe, in the late 70s, they both wanted a College of Engineering, and the government would not build two schools within 3 miles of each other as the two engineering colleges. So they were directed, that was before my time, to figure out a way to work it out. And they did, and we are keeping up with all the ideals of putting two streams together. The best thing out of our program, in my opinion, is I first came into the United States in 1998 as an assistant professor. And I came in from England, and at that time I didn't quite understand the dichotomy of views within the diverse populations. And I finally figured it out. And I was going to church, and I was told that 11 o'clock, I heard on radio that 11 o'clock on Sundays is the most segregated hour in the country. And this is coming from England, where everybody mixed up. And we went to the same services. So when I got to FAMU, FSU College of Engineering, and I found a good blend of students from the Caucasians and the African Americans in the same classrooms, and they were proportionally about the same, I felt that was a wonderful thing to do. My many years after that, I continue to feel the same way. We have developed several programs. We have PhD programs, PhD degrees in 6 of our programs, and I am the chair of Industrial and Manufacturing Engineering. Our program actually, even though our school is small, or the student population is about 2,600, my department actually is number 4 in the country in any IE department when you look at per faculty research expenditure, and number 11 in the country in any IE department when you do not consider the size. So we're doing pretty good. And we use a lot of that money to educate our students, all the way from a bachelor's degree to a doctoral degree.
Push it. There you go. I was introduced to ATK many, many years ago when we were looking at funding agencies or people to work with to develop our composites program at our university. Then we got the funding to work on senior design projects with a ATK, or orbital ATK as it's known now. And that spanned about 6 years. And each year we had 9 students that were in 3 teams and mentored by the engineers and the managers each year. And we ran our teams as Six Sigma, we put Six Sigma into practice basically. We ran from the define all the way to control and the final review. And the ATK engineers and personnel were deeply involved, and that's what came up with the success. We drove the students from Tallahassee, where we are, to KSC. We were hoping we'll get to Utah. That never happened. But all the students who got on the program wanted to go to fly all the way to Utah to see them. They provided us with different trainings. We did the PES, the ATK PES, the Performance Enterprise System, talked with the students about the 5S, mentored them throughout the year via conference calls. I think they had weekly or bi-weekly calls. They had face-to-face meetings. People from down South Florida used to come up to Tallahassee frequently to speak with the students. And the reason I say that is when you're looking at the company interactions, earlier on I mentioned problems with getting our students into graduate programs, and the fact that the minority students are gold, and they are, because there are so few of them. And many of them, in fact, when we look at comparisons, we're talking about data. If you compare the FAMU students and the FSU students, they're at parity. Some year we'll have the best student coming out of FAMU, some years we'll have the best student coming out of FSU. So it all comes out to being the same. I know many majority institutions believe otherwise, but our experiment has proven what I'm saying to be true. So they're highly sought after. Many of them get about 7 job offers once they graduate. Even at the turn of the economy in 2008, 2009, that was when I knew the economy was going bad, because they were getting about 1 job offer. Then it picked up again after that. Many of the recruiters come to us just because of them. So that creates a great thing, because I was complaining to a colleague of mine. I said, you know, that's a great thing that our students are sought after. But it creates a problem at the other end where we can't get them into our graduate programs. We can't get them to our research. We can't get them to do many of the things. We have the students, rather than coming to us doing research, they'll go to a company. Many companies offer them internships throughout the year, and they go to them. So, but out of the ATK interactions, we were able to convince a number of them to hang out with us a little longer. And we used some of those funds to provide them with fellowships during their stay with us. ATK personnel, including Jennifer here, helped us with resume building workshops. They came in, they worked with the students, tidied up their resumes and all that, gave them feedback, came in for the media review as well as the final review. So I just talked about manpower development. The students who had their resumes, they got their resumes boosted by the experience
with ATK. In fact, each time I track them online through LinkedIn, I always see the Orbital ATK experience prominently stationed there, because they actually did work. And the key to this is many companies, we do all our senior design projects with the companies rather than classroom examples. But it actually is more gratifying when the company actually takes what you've done and puts it into practice. And this is what we saw with our experience, looking at the different programs we had, the different projects we had. It looked at it, worked with the students, and put everything into plan. One of my students that I was just talking about, he defended in April. He has a good job right now. Another one who came through that program is getting ready to, is going through her doctoral work with me, and hopefully will graduate next year. So we do have all that coming out of this, and throughout the year, we've also used those funds to employ students in what I call our research scholarship program, where we get in all the undergraduate researchers to work on the different aspects of our materials engineering program. And they come in, they go from the freshman year all the way to graduation. We keep them engaged, doing real stuff, writing papers, doing all that. And that has helped us as well attract women into our program and into our graduate program. So I'm just looking at the pipeline from the undergraduate program all the way to the graduate program.
You had about 2 minutes.
Only?
Only.
Okay. So the resulting relationships. I got to rush now.
I still got to answer the tab.
We have someone from Orbital ATK on our advisory board helping us every year. And I'm going on to them with requests, as I'm going to different companies on a request to help us with recruiting minority students into our program to see how we can better work with their, attend to their needs. We're also working with Eileen Yates at Aerojet Rocketdyne, and all these relationships came out of my relationship with ATK, particularly Jennifer. We have Michelle from Lockheed Martin. We're putting together a task order right now, IDIQ right now. And lastly, we are hosting, for all those of you who are interested, for all the HBCUs represented here, the NASA HBCU MSI Technology Infusion Tour will be on our campus. In fact, we're going to use our Challenger Learning Center. So it'll be on our campus on September 27th through the 29th, where you'll be able to meet the NASA prime contractors who are looking for partnerships with HBCUs. And I'll close with this slide just showing we have about the largest composite engineering research facility in any university in the United States. We have 45,000 square feet of lab space and manufacturing bay, and we have about $10 million worth of equipment there, state of art. And we believe it's a shared facility, so we have gone away from what many professors do and have their own little kingdoms. And we have a shared facility where everyone can use what we have. And I'll end there.
You'll end there. Well, thank you very much. Then next we have up Ms. Jennifer Schofield from Orbital ATK, but formerly ATK. She's going to talk about the Mentor Protege program. I can tell you now, the benefits that the program does for small businesses as well as HBCUs and MIs is immeasurable. NASA's program's been in effect for a while. We have like 27 active mentors and about 16 active agreements right now. And Jennifer's very instrumental in a lot of that, so I'll let her talk to you a little bit about the program.
Well, I appreciate the invitation and letting me be here today. Representing industry, I know I'm completely outnumbered in this, but I think you need our point of view as far as industry goes and some of the lessons learned that Orbital ATK had working with FAMU. It is a team approach. Obviously, industry can't put anything together unless there's a challenge from our customer. Orbital ATK has a SLS program from Marshall Space Flight Center, and that was a challenge in our small business plan to work with HBCUs. When I took this first back to my company and I talked to my prime contractors, I talked to my program managers and I said, we need to work with HBCUs, and he said, what do they deliver? And I said, I don't know, I'll get back to you. So basically, we started working on the project, and we went through a number of HBCUs. And mind you, this was 4 or 5 years ago that we had the contract, and that was something that a lot of the HBCUs and the educational institutions that I spoke with had no idea how to do a contract. They could do a grant, and that was really hard in trying to educate them that that's not what we were here for, that we were basically doing a contract that we would try to put together and with a statement of work, and then they had to do a deliverable. A lot of my peers with other large corporations have chose to go the route of taking a student and doing an internship, which works out great because the interns get a lot of knowledge working and doing everything within the corporation, but I wanted to do something different. And so I wanted to take our program, make a value add to the space program, and give the opportunities to the students to actually touch, as you've been told, and we were able to accomplish that. First, NASA, I work with Marshall Space Flight Center, and they had the goal, like I said. And then we found FAMU is one of our HBCUs that we were looking at. And I'm too blind to see the monitor, so I apologize for that. So what I did was I went to the program managers. We discussed it. I was able to give them some options of different engineering type companies that I felt like would benefit Orbital ATK and our contract. And we identified a course of action, and it has to yield a return on investment for the industry, because I just can't give away money. And so there had to be a deliverable into that. I was able to get a program manager in one specific field. And once we decided to go with FAMU, we made the initial contact and went out to visit them. We had never worked with a university before. And there was a lot of different things to learn with that. We had to educate them on how to get a contract, and they had to educate us on the boundaries that they had set. Basically, I took that management champion, and we went and spoke with FAMU, and we came to the conclusion, I believe it was Dr. Okole, who actually said that he had a senior project that was already in place, and that he had identified the senior project, and we would be able to be in charge of 9 individual students. And so we basically based the contract around that theory. Now, mind you, that is a 9-month theory, and corporations and industry work 12 months. That was our first lessons learned, to be honest. We kept calling the school and nobody would answer. Or everybody was gone and we couldn't get it all together. So we knew that we had to change some things. And that is one thing that it was hard. It was really hard because our industry's attitude is when they want the contract, they'll work with us. Well, if you don't have students there, the way that Dr. Okole, I was fine until Glenn murdered it.
Contagious.
And so he had designed this program. We got on board. We had a mentor protege that we took off. They did have contracts, but we also did a mentor protege. And specifically, our engineers wrote a statement of work, and it was to study the optimized fabrication process flow for refurbishment, assembly and verification testing of the SLS, core stage attach rings, and implementation analysis. And they were thrilled because that was going to be something that we could take the students, as he mentioned, over to KSC, and they could actually see it, they could touch it, they could put those processes in order, or in the order that they deem fit. Now, mind you, I said 3 teams, so there was 3 different students on one team, so 3 teams. So nothing is better than to compete, students, and to compete in that, because all of them wanted to win. We also was able to take full control of that. In fact, they were reporting basically to us. In fact, we gave them their midterm grade, and they were able to do the presentations, tell us we had put milestones in place, tell us where they were, and how they had accomplished that, what their analysis was. The one thing that we learned very quickly is that we had to be accessible to them. You have a student working and they're progressing on the statement of work, but they have a lot of questions. This is completely new and different to them. So we literally had at least 3 dedicated staff that they would have a weekly telecon with the students to answer any questions. And I do know that some of our engineers was given their numbers, and so they could call them at any time and ask them any questions. And so that was probably one of the best lessons learned, is we were building a relationship. We were building a relationship with the students and also with the engineers. So they were able to ask the questions to get the job done, and that's what you wanted them to do. I can't obviously go by my slides because I can't see them, but we'll continue forth. I need to explain, a contract is a legal binding agreement. What I'm going to talk about is our Mentor Protege agreement. That is actually no money's exchanged, but what we do is, with NASA's outline, we identify the trainings or something that FAMU would need from us in order to do this statement of work. I think we touched on it basically, but we trained them. We had actual people go to the university. We talked about our PES training. We call it Improvement, Cost Saving, Competition, Hardware Processing Services, Value Stream Mapping, and Marketing Individual Development. That was about a 75-25 split in technical versus business, but we felt like the business and the resume building was going to be a benefit to them, not only the processes. They'd gone through the education of it, and so we felt like that was something that they could put to use. That was something that they could actually identify with and write their papers on. But the marketing, their individual or resume building, what I did was we went in and we did the basics on resume building, and a lot of them had the resumes. But I then took it back to our company and I let HR go over it. And they were able to redline it. And then I let our engineers go over it. And they were able to redline it. Then I would get back with the students. And there's a lot of times that the verbiage specifically is different in the industry versus the education. So I felt like that was a positive thing. I will tell you that my biggest mistake on this Mentor Protege agreement was that I didn't capture the students fast enough. By the time that I got back giving them the resumes and working, they all had 3 or 4 offers, Orbital ATK not being one of them. So that was my mistake, and I will not do that again. We took all of the availability of our program and we educated them and we trained them, and then all the other competitors got them. So that was our bad, but I was thrilled for the students because they were able to put Orbital ATK. They literally worked for Orbital ATK, and they were able to put that on their experience. Some of the benefits to the mentor, or for me as the prime contractor, is the knowledge of the students and also the educated staff. They had Dr. Okoli there. They had availability to all of the other professors, to what they were doing. And that's exciting. In a university, it's exciting because everything is possible. And I think the benefits to the protege was that we did give them real life experience. And so we felt like that was good. I am very passionate about this program specifically because I think it makes sense. You can be in college, you can think that the world is everything that you have been told and that you read in a textbook, and sometimes when you go out into the real world, it's completely different. And so I do think that marrying the two together to have the experience that a prime contractor has, whether it be in whatever department that we're working on, and also the excitement of the students and what they bring to the table. Basically, the industry, the technology is not going to be the same as it is today. Everything is moving forward, everything is progressing. And we literally need the students come out with those ideas to be able to speak freely to the large corporations. Sometimes in industry we say we can't do that because this is what we've always done. Well, that won't get us anywhere. And sometimes if we can get the industry to literally listen to the students and what they bring to the table, I think that can benefit us all. Now, this isn't an easy process when you work with a large company. There was about 2 months to 3 months negotiations, and that's on our terms and conditions. We can't get away from that. This is a federal contract, and we have to have all of those things met. So it's no easy task. Dr. O'Cully can probably talk to you a lot in deeper about how they can even receive a contract. But that is something that is built into our process and that we need to do to be able to pay for the services or the contract that we have. So I know that sometimes that's hard to understand, but these are some of the things that we basically need as an industry, as a prime contractor, to be able to pay you and to move forward with that. Universities create an environment of expanding all possibilities to think past the experience or the situation. Everything is continually evolving, and it would be great. I've loved this summit today just to understand and know that this is such a dynamic department and things that you're teaching all of the universities, and something that everybody is working together and has teamwork towards. That's exciting. It's exciting for the industry that we are going to be able to have the benefit of what you're doing today. Working together as a team for each of the same objectives would be an ideal situation. I think NASA's been the first to put that in play. Why can't the industry work directly with the HBCUs or the educational institutions? We should be working together. And so this just makes sense. The future and continual accomplishments for the space industry will start from the real experience. The real experience is offered for the next generation. And I truly believe this. This is something that we will want to continue doing. And I think that we've had a really good, Orbital ATK has had a really good experience working with FAMU. We actually tried to put something in place that was value added to the contract to NASA, to Marshall Space Flight Center, and we actually did that. Now, mind you, I said that we had 3 different projects, and those 3 teams approached it different. And some of them, what we were able to do is take a little bit of piece of all of them, but it was 3 different pathways, 3 different sites that we were able to see. And sometimes when you get stuck in your business office and you're out in the middle of nowhere, as you are with ATK, Orbital ATK, sometimes you forget the real world exists. And so it was really interesting and fun for my engineers, for my program manager, to see some of the different ways that they could accomplish the same task. And so that was very positive. Kudos goes to FAMU for putting all of the necessary steps in place that we could work with them. And I feel like we had a very successful program. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Okay, now we're running out of time, but we have some time for a couple of minutes for questions. If there's some questions that are out there, I guess the mics are still live. And if we have anybody online that would like to ask a question, we got a couple coming. We'll start on the left side. Whoops. Agile, I'm impressed.
Yeah, my name is Daniel Olivas, and I'm at the University of Texas El Paso. I'm one of Hassan's colleagues. I have a question for the panel, and as I've been listening this morning, I'm a former astronaut. When I got out of school, eventually went on, got my PhD, and kind of jumped right into industry. The challenge I see, I mean, certainly within the academic community, is that there's a lot of sensitivity around what the problem is. And that is that within academics, there's all sorts of disparities in what the academic setting looks like in comparison to the population. But there's, in my opinion, and I'll ask Jennifer for your opinion on this, is having worked in the aerospace field after getting out of NASA, is that disparity is even greater in the corporate community. And so the real question is, and by the way, it's not just space. It's all different technical communities that are out there. It's petrochemical, it's refining, it's computational. I mean, it's more than just space. And so the real question is, from an academic standpoint, from where we sit. 5 years ago, I sat in a similar panel with Leland Melvin, who was Associate Administrator for Education at the time, and we had a very similar dialogue. A lot of the same words were being said, but as I think about kind of where we sit today, is like what is it that we can do, or what are the thoughts that are out there that we can do from an academic standpoint to really press industry to kind of see that and get it, and not just get it at the worker bee level where they take those 29 and younger and say, oh yeah, well that looks a lot like America, but at the higher levels within the organization, so that senior management looks very much like embracing that level of diversity. So I'm interested in hearing your opinions on that.
I think Orbital ATK is very wants to champion this. I think that they have gone to great lengths to work with the educational community. Like I said, NASA prompted the challenge, and I believe that we met the challenge to do that. The truth is, working with the educational institutions is difficult because you guys have boundaries. We have different boundaries. I feel like I said, 5-6 years ago, I went and I interviewed 3 or 4 universities. And to be honest with you, one of them just told me, I can't accept anything but a check. Well, that wasn't going to work for me. They didn't, I had to give them a contract. We had to get a deliverable. And that needs to be respected both ways. I think that the educational institutions have a lot to offer. And we just need to get in our companies the same people at the table. The table that can make the difference, basically. But we have to work it both ways. Does that make sense? I mean, I was told time and time again that they would accept a check or that they would want a grant. And I think that's great. I don't understand the grant system, but for us it had to be a deliverable, and we had to be able to receive something for that.
Well, I'll make a very quick comment. I think the point he was really trying to make is getting a little more diversity in the upper management of industry, basically. But it's basically, if they continually recruit at the same spots, they're going to get the same people. They just have to change where they do their recruiting, is the bottom line. And they have to really open up their minds to the possibility of people that are just as good at places that they normally don't go to because they weren't exposed to it. So somehow they just have to be exposed more. And I know at NASA we're doing that. We're not going to the traditional spots that we normally have gone to all the time. We're actually doing recruiting in different areas so that we can get more diversity, because in our mission, if everyone thinks alike, you're going to fail. Okay, so you have to have different thought patterns in order to be able to succeed, and that's what we're trying to do, is succeed. So, Ms. Tsai?
Hi, my name's Clay Wong. I'm a professor at University of Southern California. I'm a NASA grantee with several flight projects. A question for our colleague at FAMU and Orbital ATK. So from your presentation, it's been a while from undergrad, but I was a student, I'll be super excited about it, and that's what I want to do. But hearing from you, it looks like there's a limited number of students. You're saying 9 slots. So I would expect that you have a lot more interest in your program than a number of people you can take. So how do you deal with that? Because, maybe just
9 slots per year.
per year.
Per year for 6 years.
Yeah, but you probably have a lot of students.
Yeah,
who
but they
want to-
can't all go to the same company. There are other companies who want all the students, so I have to divvy up the resources, the number of students per the projects that I get. So that's why I gave ATK the 9. That's a lion's share of the companies, simply because they were good to me.
But you've been able to get enough slots with the students you have that to match them. 'Cause
Yeah,
the problem
I-
I have is when I say I have a NASA project, my door is filled with graduates.
No.
undergraduates.
I think you're taking it the wrong way. I had several projects from several companies, and then I gave ATK 3 groups of students. There was Boeing, there's Lockheed, there are other companies out there and I can't just give it to all to one company. So I think.
I think what he's mostly asking, do you fill all of your students in among all those companies? Because he says he has like 40 slots open, but he has 200 students looking. How do you pare down for those 40 slots?
Right, that's my question. Because once you have the name NASA, people are super excited. And
Yeah,
there's
they
so
all
many
want
more
to
people.
go there. They all want to go there, but we have to spread the joy.
Yeah, so he wonders, do you have a selection
We have to
process?
select, yes.
So he has a selection process to get down, evidently. Okay, ma'am?
Thank you so much. It was an interesting discussion. I have a question for Okenwa and Jennifer. And I want to congratulate you both for battling through contracting issues. It is a challenge for universities often to meet industry requirements. And I'm vice president for research at Oregon State University, and this is a daily part of my job. So I'm wondering, is there any discussion or any motivation in industry to come up with a standardized way of dealing with research institutions?
I wish.
That's a great idea. That is a great idea. You know, we are contractually, we negotiated. It wasn't just, this is our terms and conditions and you have to adhere by them. We did have, Mark Olson was our purchasing agent at the time, and he did a fabulous job. And I know it was a give and take. All negotiations are a give and take. I do like your suggestion. It depends on the statement of work, to be honest with you, what we can give and take. We were literally receiving the deliverable of paper, of a process paper. So not as critical as maybe a manufacturing part. So that is a great idea, but at this point, this is the only one that we've done. We would like to do some more in the future, but it just depends on the statement of work. But that would be a great idea if we could all come together. Depends on the contract that NASA gives us also, because that is the only pathway that we are able to, you know, whatever their flow downs are to us, it's our requirement to flow it down to the next supplier, basically. So that's a great idea.
Okay, we're running a little late, so I'll take one question from the virtual world, and then we'll bring up the next panel on
Sure.
grants.
Does NASA have any other contractor companies besides Orbital ATK that are working with MSIs, minority serving institutions?
Off the top of my head, I believe we have 4 or 5 other ones that are working with minority institutions. You can go to our Better Protege website, and they can find them on there. You can go to www.osbp.gov, .nasa.gov, and you can see Better Protege, and it lists all of our Better Protege agreements that are active, and you can see the other companies that are working with HBCUs. Okay? Or call our office too, I'm being instructed, which is 202-358-2088, and we can give you a listing there. So with that being said, I can transition. I'd like to, first of all, if we can thank our panelists. I appreciate their help. And we will transition to the other side of the fence, which you guys are very familiar with, which is the grant side of the fence. And I will bring Barbara up, and then she can introduce her panel members. And then we'll do a little quick switcheroo.
It'll take just a second.